Welcome to EdTech Live. I'm Steve Hargadon, and the interview you're about to hear was recorded on August 3rd, 2006, with Daniel Howard, William Fragakis, and Shawn Adams. This interview was an eye-opening look at how the Atlanta Public School District is planning to use Linux thin client technology to significantly increase access to computers for their students, and the striking results. The sound quality of the interview does improve after the first short bit. It's worth your patience, I promise. Tonight's interview is brought to you by TechnologyRescue.com, helping schools and businesses implement Linux thin client technology. TechnologyRescue.com. Miguel Gulen co-hosted this interview, and he starts us off.
Welcome to the second hour of the K12 open source webcast. We have three guests tonight, Daniel Howard, William, I don't know how to say your last name. Go ahead. Fragakis, and Shawn Fragakis, and Shawn Adams. And why don't y'all introduce yourselves? Because I'm just reading about you in NewsForge and how. So go ahead, introduce yourselves.
Okay, so this is Daniel Howard. I'm interestingly, Steve introduced me as a active parent. I would say overactive parent. I'm getting a lot of echo here. Do you guys hear that?
Yes, I'm getting an echo as well. Are we muted on the Skype? Are we muted on the Skypecast?
We are muted on the Skypecast, but it came when I brought Shawn in. Yeah. So I just took Shawn out, unfortunately, and we'll call him right back. See if it gets any better.
Okay.
Shall
I continue?
Please do.
Okay. So, I am an electrical engineer in my day job, so I spend a lot of time volunteering at Morris Brandon Elementary, where my son goes. And I, along with William Fragakis, are the two parents who really took upon ourselves to try to help keep these older computers working for the teachers. And that's how we got started in this whole thing. We met through the process of PTA coming to us and asking what kind of new computers they should buy. And I'll hold off on the rest of the story until all the answers in a row. It's very similar to Daniel's, the parents, and one clarification that Daniel said is that we're actually helping the teachers with the students' computers. And our focus for this entire effort was on the student side of computing at the school. We didn't involve ourselves on the parent side, the teacher side at all. And I've been involved in the school for about 3 years with various technology projects, and probably witnessed, along with Daniel, frustration with the state of care. To get more concise, my story is very similar to Daniel's. Parent involved for about 3 years, various technology aspects at the school. I was able to witness really, despite everybody's best efforts between the school, the teachers, the frustrations with the technology, just because, like I'd say just about all schools, they're just very constrained with what they can afford and what they have, and that's the PTA presented us with the opportunity. We said, let's take a step back and really think about things. We'll go on further from that point in a moment.
I'm dying to ask you about one of the quotes that comes out in NewsForge article. It says that what we discovered is that teachers were really using the computers only for browsing and office applications. That's a dirty little secret that you've let out.
Sure, and as a matter of fact, Jim or Eric in last hour's interview said basically the same thing. They want to do email, which is nowadays most people do on the web, and they want a word processor, maybe a spreadsheet. And then they started laughing and talking about chat too. And we're all of us with teenage kids are seeing that happening. But yeah, the way we found out was that, and again, William and I started this not trying to force a Linux solution on the school. I really didn't know anything about Linux at that point, other than I had students that did Linux for me when I was at Georgia Tech. And we basically stepped back and said, well, let's find out what the problems are, And then let's find out what the teachers want to do with the computers. So we put together a survey before we did anything, and we wanted to know what they wanted to use their computers for. If their computers work, what would they like to do with it? And what came back was, web applications, office applications. We had this package we use called Accelerated Reader. We converted it to, which makes it agnostic and runs just great under Firefox. And that was really when the straw that broke the camel's back, we realized everything that they wanted to do could be done under the, a different operating system.
Yep. So you faded out a little bit on the Accelerated Reader. How did you handle Accelerated Reader? Because that is an important program that everybody's excited about.
Sure. What we did was William discovered that they were converting to a web-based delivery. And Accelerated Reader, before we had a server in the school, but it still had to authenticate. So if the network connection was down to the internet, capital I, it couldn't authenticate and it wouldn't work. If the server went down for any reason, it wouldn't work. We had, some of the lines going to the rooms were pretty poor. So for a variety of reasons, it was problematic to use Accelerated Reader before. In fact, teachers told us that kids would read a book, and typically it would be a week or two before they could take the test in Accelerated Reader. And just to fast forward to the present, this past year, the teachers told us that within 15 minutes of finishing a book, they had finished the Accelerated Reader test online.
Wow, that's fantastic. I think a lot of people are going to be excited to know that they can use Accelerated Reader on K12 LTSP.
It worked like a champ. In fact, William may want to comment on it. Did you have to do anything to make it work?
No, the only issues we had in the entire suite was with the early literacy, which was the kindergarten testing suite. But the other products, we encountered really no issues at all. On the plus side, we found that now you can take the test. Now we could actually use the application that we've been paying licensing fees for several years. The reliability went through the roof, and now it's a product that the kids can use, the teachers can use, and they have faith in. That completely transformed things. But I'd like to take a step back. One thing that's very important in the educational perspective, I've thought a lot about this, is that a lot of us come at the whole issue of K12 LTSP from the technical side, and that's why I think it's great to have Shawn involved tonight. And this is what we did at Brandon. We looked to solve a technical issue, but what we found at the end, it's an amazing educational tool, and that becomes probably the biggest story. I mean, we can talk about the total cost savings, talk about the hardware, etc., but it really becomes a great educational story.
Yeah, William and I often tell each other now, in referring to all the wonderful things that happened that we had no idea would happen, is that we basically just gave these teachers working toolboxes, and they went and built houses. What those teachers did with those working computers just continues to amaze us.
So this is Steve, and I'd like to jump in and ask a question at this point, because I think it's a very interesting topic for a lot of people right now, and that is, what is the role of technology in education? And I'm interested in your experiences specifically related to the excitement that was generated, the use of the computers, and did you see something evolve there that gave you some understanding or perspective on how technology can, in fact, generate educational benefits?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What we noticed primarily in looking at our improved test scores, and again, I'm hoping Shawn will get to chime in and talk about some of the instructional impact, but I would just say at a 30,000-foot level, by having enough computers in each class, enough working computers, productivity increased, which meant that the teachers could use leftover time for additional web activities, like Burst in Math was a really popular site that our kids used, and they spent a lot of time doing math as a result. And then the other thing was that the teachers regularly integrated the computers throughout the day into the curriculum. The younger kids write William and I thank you notes and say, we love our computers, and that was something nobody heard before, by the way. and they like it because of G Compris, or they like the Child's Play, and they like being able to do accelerated reader. The older kids, the thing that just kept coming back was research. They're always able to do their research right away. And interestingly, Steve, several parents said this to me. They said, it used to be that whenever the kids had a project to do, it was really stressful for us at home because the kids would have to do most of their research on the project at home, and the parents, would be trying to berate them to do it, and the kids, would goof off and want to watch TV. Well, what happened was that the kids started doing their research for projects at school, and so they weren't doing it at home. And the same thing happened with this online statewide test that the kids take. There's an online practice test. The parents said they weren't doing it at home. They were afraid we were going to get horrible scores, and it turned out we got great scores. And it was because they were doing all of that at school under the supervision of the teacher. And what made that possible? Having enough working PCs in each classroom.
So you're seeing a definite correlation between the cost of implementation, the ratio of computers to students, then the ability of the teachers to be able to utilize those computers in productive ways.
Absolutely. In fact, I would say K12LTSP's primary initial benefits that then percolate into these other benefits is that its cost is cheap enough so that you can afford and use donated computers. You can put a lot more computers in for the limited resources that schools have. And it is reliable in that the teachers will develop confidence in the computer technology and regularly use it. They were not doing that before.
And that confidence is a very specific thing. Even if you had an issue, the teachers understood that within minutes of being in the class, we'd leave and things are fixed. Once teachers have confidence that technology works, they'll use it. But if they don't have that confidence, you'll go around to the school after school and you'll just see dark screen. I'm sorry, Daniel.
No, absolutely. In fact, we've been to other schools that have the sections that our school has. And what do you see? You see maybe one kid on the teacher's PC, which is the only one that's new enough and reliable enough to use, and the other PCs are just sitting there dark.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us, what your perspective is on this.
Well, yeah, I'm a learning technology specialist with the Atlanta Public Schools. I've been there for a couple of years. And I do come in, previously I was one of the technicians, computer technicians, but I spent a few years in the classroom as a teacher and found out I wanted to have more of an impact, less on the technical side and more on actual instructional delivery and integrating technology in the curriculum. And what I have found, I've been working in APS since 1999, and the thing that I did find was that we were just not able to keep up with the operating system innovations that we were dealing with from other operating it just became very, very difficult in a system as diverse and large as Atlanta Public Schools to be able to keep up with that rapid change, to have some form of reliability. And so we'd invest, millions of dollars in some sort of rollout of machines that were, at that particular moment, very effective. But within a span of 6 months to a year, those machines would need great massage in order to keep them up and running. So we found several problems because we did not have the workforce capacity to maintain those machines, and teachers are not set or skilled at those particular, doing those particular things. And so we just were kind of chasing a rabbit, trying to get some kind of solution. And I think that Daniel and William came up with the solution. This thin client Linux the K12LTSP, and what I've seen from day one until now has been phenomenal. So from a district perspective, we're very curious about, and I happen to have been the LT, or the Learning Technology Specialist, that was at Brandon during this implementation process. And there was more questions than answers, obviously, from a district perspective. We weren't sure exactly how this was going to come out, because there is a great degree of ignorance when it comes to, I would say, different operating systems. I think that right now in our district we're going through a bit of a renaissance in the fact that we're looking at other operating systems, not just the Linux operating system, but also for a period of time the Macintosh operating system was viewed as contraband. And now we're beginning to realize that in order for us to really impact students in a great manner, we're going to have to kind of think outside of the box of what we were used to. And what we saw was so phenomenal through the span of what has been done at Brandon, and moving the ratio of nine students to one computer. And that technically is probably pretty good when you look at some of the other schools where it was probably a 1 to 18 or 1 to, as I think Daniel mentioned, 1 to 20. And the students not really getting access to technology, where in Brandon we're having something about 2 to 1, sometimes even a 1 to 1 with some of the other neat projects that Brandon has going with laptops and some other things. And what we found, as William mentioned, is a reliable computer that teachers are able to access, and students, more importantly, are able to access. And with that, the instructional delivery has definitely been enhanced. And we see that with evidence of the test scores. But more than that, just the morale of the teachers. They are so excited about what we're doing, and we're just trying to go from where we started to doing some new projects and some other things. And then from a district perspective, the curiosity has led us to a point where we're going to now implement this thin client process in 7 other pilot schools, or actually 6 other pilot schools for the 2006-2007 year. And sky's going to be the limit. We're really just scratching the surface on this, and right now we're still in the process of formulating the strategy of deployment. But it's going to happen, and I'm very excited to be a part of what we're getting ready to do.
So, sure appreciate that, Shawn. Those are good words. One of the things that occurs to me in hearing that description is that a lot of kids probably previously had more time with computers at home than they did at school.
Correct.
So is just having time with the computer at school in and of itself something valuable?
It is, and especially in an urban district like Atlanta, because just the statement you made that more students have access to computers at home. Actually, and what I'm so excited about in this pilot is that in an urban school system, we have quite a few students that do not have computers at home, do not have access to computers at home, and the access to technology, which is so instrumental in enhancing instruction, they were not getting. And so now being able to come to school and use technology there, I'm anticipating a great turnaround in some of our student achievement, which is the main thing that our department is really trying to push, because we believe that technology can increase and drive student achievement. And it may, and I actually think it probably happened at Brandon as well, increase not only student achievement, you're talking about retention of students coming to school because they're excited about what they're going to be doing. And so I think that we'll even see a greater impact in some of the poorer schools that we have in our district, where maybe those students don't have access to technology in their home, but they will be able to have it in the schools that we're targeting for this particular pilot. And as the pilot is successful, pushing it to other schools.
So that sure sounds to me like changing lives.
Yes.
That you are actually seeing the technology do something which will dramatically make a difference in the life of a youth in terms of their long-term skills and capabilities and ability to be productive in life.
Correct.
Now, a statistic that we've heard the last couple of weeks that came out of the National Educational Computing Convention came from Mike Huffman in Indiana, who said that Indiana at some point realized they'd spent $100 million, and the end result was that each student had 35 minutes a week on a computer. Have you gone through and in very similar ways looked at what you've actually spent and looked at the cost of Linux Thin Client and made some comparisons that you could share with us?
I think that I would defer to Daniel or William on that as it relates to Brandon at this particular time. I think what we looked at was about, less than 1 hour a day for a student on a PC. And at this particular
Actually,
time,
when I did the math, what we had before was a computer lab that was fairly reliably up.
Right.
And so because of the number of classrooms we had, and they typically scheduled the computer lab for less than an hour, it worked out that they got less than 1 hour per week on a computer. And we have now gone to a capability.
3 times that, I'm sure.
Pardon?
You said about 3 times that, I'm sure. It's about 3 hours, didn't you say?
Steve, I know you're familiar with the laptop cart, you know, the big red engine picture that I posted that I built in my driveway. And with the combination of a 12-station laptop cart in the hallway shared by a handful of classrooms on that hall, and, you know, 9 to 12 thin class in their classroom, the kids are getting a 1-to-1 ratio, like what they were getting in the computer lab, 1 hour a day.
That really
and then the rest of the day, they're sharing 12 Ps at a 2-to-1 ratio. So, yeah, it was huge. I mean, and the kids were on the computers all the time. The one thing that we noticed is that when we started walking around the classroom, the school, looking into classrooms, the kids were on the computer all the time now.
Shawn, I could hear you in the background trying to talk. Did you want to add to that?
I was really excited about the laptop because we as a district made a big investment. Every school got at least one laptop card. Pretty traditional IBM ThinkPad, Pentium 3 or Celerons, and really what we saw happen at Brandon with those laptops was something phenomenal, and I think that's going to really make our investment there because we really haven't gotten much bang for that investment that I anticipate we can go ahead and reconfigure that the way that we've seen it done at Brandon, and hopefully even for the NET conference, which I'm excited is going to be in Atlanta, we'll be able to have some kind of prototype next year that everyone can see, because I saw some laptop carts, even from other vendors this year in San Diego, and it was still kind of the challenge of getting them up and out and configured and ready to go. By the time that happens, you spend about 25 minutes, and, you know, with this laptop card, I'm sure people who are listening may not be able to visually see it, but how long does it take to get it set up, William or Daniel? It's already set up, so it takes like 30 seconds for them just to hit a space button. And
that's exactly right. The kids basically walk over, sit down, wake it up. It takes a second. They log on, takes another 10 seconds, and they're up running. And so the hour that they scheduled on the cart, they get 59 minutes of that hour, whereas before, like Shawn was saying, it would take 15 to 20 minutes to get all the laptops out, distribute them, boot them up, and they took, in our case, the laptops really were not being used at all because they had been upgraded to Windows XP, but no additional memory had been put in them, so they were slow as molasses. Nobody wanted to use them. And it turns out they were great as thin clients.
And so what we're doing already, not necessarily in partnership with this thin client pilot, but from a department perspective, we'd already decided everything we were going to push was going to be web-based. Heard a question earlier about accelerated reader. We'd already made a kind of a district decision that all of the Renaissance projects heretofore that we're going to be pushing out were no longer going to be server-based. And everything that we try to do is going to be web-based, which really even multiplies the impact of this thin client infrastructure, getting people onto the Internet reliably in a seamless nature where we can deliver instructional enhancements via technology just using the web. And this was the total solution, the perfect solution for what we were trying to accomplish as a district. We just didn't really know it until we saw it happening at Brandon, and when we began to really evaluate and see what was going on there, our IT team got excited about it. Our director, Gail Waldo, was very excited about it, and she kind of initiated this idea of piloting some schools. And believe you me, the principals who are getting a wind of this, are wanting their school to be a part of the pilot. And so, all of that's going on. There's a great excitement. And we just know this is going to be a great project, coming up in this next year. And I'm just kind of glad to be a part of it. The guys who are on my team that have been assigned to those schools are extremely excited about the potential. And the only thing about it was to overcome the lack of familiarity with something, with a different operating system than what everybody had been used to up to this point.
So for those go ahead, Daniel.
I could say that's where it was really helpful that we just went ahead and did it and could prove that the training issues and the transition to the new operating system were really almost negligible. I mean, we had teachers use it for an hour without realizing they were using a different operating system. But there's another point that Shawn made. He mentioned Gail Waldo. And one of the questions I saw on the wiki asked about, what are some of the challenges or what are, some of the lessons learned in doing this. One of the things that happened when Gail Waldo came and saw what we had, she's the director of operational technology, is she immediately got it. And, she came from the healthcare industry and so was familiar with thin client technology. She immediately saw the benefits. She knew she had a bunch of aging computers all over the district that had the same problems, and she became the champion internally at APS that I think really made this happen. Like Shawn was saying, she was one that pushed to have a pilot program. But, having somebody inside that becomes a believer is a big part of success, I think.
Do you think that Gail faced a fair amount of resistance?
I'm sure she got some. I mean, there's the usual and like Eric and Jim were talking about, it's hard for people to get out of the box. It's hard to, envision that something could work that's completely different. And further, one of the challenges that you can run into is if someone, has tried Linux before, if a school has tried Linux before in the earlier days before K12LTSP was around, they've already developed an opinion that it's, complex and hard to learn and, too difficult. And, that's some of the challenges that I think you run into as well. So it all boils down to you got to show them. And I think, to Eric and Jim's point, start with a computer lab, start with a single lab or classroom, but just get it up and running and show them it. A lot of believers get converted when they see it in action.
And that's what we found. We've been blessed with our visitors coming through this year, and you can talk about it, you can describe it, but it's probably like the Grand Canyon until you see it. You really don't understand the concept.
So did I understand correctly that the next stage for you is pilot programs in 9 additional schools?
The initial was 9. It's going to be, Brandon is still going to be what we call our skunk works. I'll let Daniel and William explain what that kind of means. Brandon is kind of the one of the schools that we're calling a pilot. There's some things that we're going to be doing to try to take this to even another level at Brandon. But then we've selected 6 other schools, 3 middle schools and 3 elementary schools across the different SRTs. We have like different regions that we kind of break our schools into different SRTs. And so we selected 3 middle schools, and we also selected 3 elementary schools. And actually the school that Brandon feeds into, a middle school, Sutton Middle School, is one of the pilot schools, and they just got a $22 million renovation in their brand new facility. And rather than going with the other solution, I highly recommend it to let's put a thin client infrastructure in that school. The powers that be agreed, and so we're planning on implementing a enterprise thin client solution for Sutton. It's still a matter of time for us to make sure that everything that needs to be done is done so that we can have 100% success rate. We do not want this pilot, or I personally, I don't see how it could fail, but I want to make sure everything that we do is going to be as successful as possible, because I just believe we're really, really scratching the surface. When I was at NEC, I visited several of the different workshops in other areas, and part of it is I'm open source, and I really just believe, Steve, we're only scratching the surface. I don't think education really even understands fully the impact that what we're trying to do can do, because we're still looking at so many other things. And I think those are not really solutions. It's just that they have so much money in even education, and we spend so much money in so many other avenues that really we just keep spending money on the wrong solution, which is usually the short-term solution, or we just throw money at something and it really doesn't solve the problem. It just kind of continues the problem. Until we do something from a structural standpoint, we're not going to see the change. But I think we're seeing the light in Atlanta, and I think there's going to be something very exciting for other urban districts to look at and catch a glimpse of what can be done.
I think that's an add-on. Sorry. If I can add on to one thing to Shawn there is the K12LTSP package is really a complete educational package. And the traditional solution, let's get the kids new computers, you drop a box in there and maybe it does 1 or 2 functions of web browsing and word processing. And this solution is different. You extend way beyond that. There's language capabilities, math capabilities, science, chemistry, astronomy. So as Shawn was saying, we don't have just the box there, but actually educational tools for the kids to use, and that is a very powerful thing. That was the first thing that teachers really got excited about, is not only is there a computer, but now that there's something for kids to do on the computer, they were just very excited about that. Even the skeptical and cynical ones just lit up when they saw it was available.
And the other thing is, with all those software applications on the PCs, and they're on every PC, if the network connection does go down, there's still a whole wealth of applications that if the internet connection, external internet connection goes down, there's still a whole host of applications that the teachers can get, useful educational time with the kids.
Correct.
So, Steve, we never really did a summary of the history. I didn't answer any of Miguel's questions. Did you want me to kind of go through that, or do we want to just refer people to the NewsForge article and they can get the full details of the history of the project there? I think it's been kind of interesting to go into more depth on some of the critical issues as opposed to just a rehash of this history.
Well, I think a few minutes of the history would be useful for those who haven't seen the articles. And then why don't you tell us what interests you the most at this point?
Okay. So as we mentioned earlier, William and I were parent volunteers that in May of 2005, the PTA and principal came to us and said, what kind of new computer should we buy? We have some leftover fundraising money from this past year. So that's when William and I said, well, let's not just buy the same old stuff and put it on the same old network. Let's look at what our problems are and what a real long-term solution might be. So we put surveys out to the teachers. We talked with the principal and the teachers, and we watched what they were using, what they were trying to use the computers for, and then we started doing some research. And we both, at the same time, really found the K12LTSP stuff and started talking to each other about it, and it was like, this really looks like a good solution. The only thing that we were concerned about was accelerated reader, but when we found that they were moving to a web-based delivery, that solved it. So we proposed this to the principal. They wanted to see it, so William actually put together a test system in his basement, brought it in, put it in the computer lab, and then hooked up two old Windows 95 PCs, one of which was not even booting to it, and voila, they worked. And so, it's the Frankenstein demo, right? We brought these things back to life and then showed how fast they were working. So that got the principal excited about it and the PTA leadership. So the next step that we did was we set up some conference calls. And, Steve, you were helpful in that. We got one of your customers online, I think the guy in Kailua, Hawaii.
Oh, yeah, John.
That sounds familiar?
John.
But we had our principal, and actually some other principals came and did this conference call, and they listened to other principals talking about K12LTSP and how it just works. It works all the time. It's been great, no viruses, everything's reliable. So that's when the real buzz starts happening. And so the principal and the PTA decided that they would spend some of the money on buying some new servers. And the way we did it was we bought a couple of new servers for the computer lab. And then we took the existing PCs in the computer lab and just upgraded them with a new hard disk and some more memory and turned those into classroom servers. So we started populating the classrooms with these servers, and you could just see it go from night to day in the classrooms with the teachers. Suddenly all the computers worked again. So then I formed a PTA parent volunteer committee called the E-Parents, and their job was to go solicit donated computers from local companies and then muster an army of SUVs to go pick them up and bring them to the school and hook them up. And we did that and deployed over 100. We got some from local companies that parents worked at. Turner Broadcasting donated some to us here in Atlanta. It was phenomenally fantastic. We got more than we knew what to do with. And so then we started deploying them, and then we went from maybe 1 to 2 working PCs in a classroom to average of 5 to 6 in grades kindergarten through 3, and average number of working PCs per classroom of 8 to 9 in grades 4 and 5. And then we had the laptop idea. We had these laptops that weren't being used for anything, and one teacher said, well, I really wish I could, have a 1-to-1 ratio more often so that I could do creative writing and things like that. So we got this idea to to build a piece of furniture with shelves on it, as opposed to the conventional laptop carts that just have it's storage for laptops. So this one, is designed to roll into a classroom, and you put the shelves out, you set the laptops up, and hook them up to the server. And that process really only took about 3 minutes because the server's on a UPS battery backup, and it's long enough to last to move from room to room. Well, once the teachers saw it, they said, "Can you just put it in the hallway and leave it there, and then we'll send our kids out to get on it." And they figured out how to use this stuff the most effectively. That's what just amazed William and I. So in the process, we met Gail Waldo and Shawn, and both of them were immediate believers and saw the powerful aspect, the benefits of this. And then we started meeting with the Atlanta Public Schools information technology folks on a very regular basis, several times a week in some cases. And basically it was William and I showing them what we did, how we did it, why we did things the way we did it, how we were approaching it, what our thoughts moving forward would be. And it was really a very enjoyable collaboration. They were totally interested in seeing how this could benefit. And then none of us expected the test results. When that hit, I would say any of the remaining nattering nabobs and naysayers downtown had to at least pay attention to the test results, because it was really a turnaround.
I'd say, and interestingly, the significant issue we tried to solve at first was getting working computers in the classroom, and 6 months later, that was completely a non-issue. The problems we had were electricity, tables, space. It turned out to be problems you would never imagine because nobody can afford computers, and suddenly we had so many we just had no place to put them, and we run out of juice to power them up. And that turned out the issues.
It's a good point, because one of the solutions that we came up with was when we started having 8 to 9 of these older PCs per classroom, and the older classrooms with only maybe 1 or 2 15 or 20 amp circuits going to it, we were popping circuit breakers. So I had a contractor come in and quote us for, thinking down the line we'd have to upgrade the electrical plant. Well, it was more money than we had left in our budget. So then William and I got together and started thinking about it, and we said, instead of increasing the amount of electricity in the room, why don't we decrease the amount that we're using? And William got on the phone with the guys from, what's the name of the company? Devon IT. And they make a thin client, and normally it goes for, it's a diskless workstation, and normally it goes for $150, but when William schmoozed them and told them, what we were doing, they offered him a batch for $99 each, which beat my prediction that in 2 years the price of a new thin client would be under $100 by about a year and 2 months. So what we did was we used the final remaining money that we had and bought some new thin clients to put in the older classrooms that were popping circuit breakers, and we bought some LCD monitors, and all of our electricity problems went away. We're still probably pushing the limit on it, but that's one of the things that excites us about the new APS pilot is they're actually planning on using new thin clients and LCD monitors because they know they're going to run into this power issue in other schools as well. But it was an interesting for the problem.
They're probably also going to be able to show some actual cost savings in terms of energy use.
Correct.
Oh, boy. I mean, it actually, I'll also give credit to the CIO of APS, Jerome Oberlton, because he asked me, point blank, to prove to him the cost benefits, to look at the total cost of ownership. And, it's a difficult thing to do, but I discovered a lot of really interesting things in the process. Obviously, the acquisition costs are cheaper because thin client is cheaper, doesn't have to have a hard disk and all that other hardware. The software cost is zero if you're using open source. Deployment costs are actually cheaper because you don't have to install and put a bunch of security patches. You just load up the clients, plug them in, and off you go. The management and support actually turns out to be cheaper. One of the FUDs that I think Microsoft used in their Get the Facts campaign was that Linux admins cost more than Windows admins. But when I dug into that, I discovered that a typical Linux admin, yes, he makes, a slightly higher salary typically, but he can manage 50 to one guy was quoted as managing 1,000 servers, whereas a typical Windows admin can only manage 10 to 15 servers. So, I mean, it is absolutely cheaper. And what we discovered at Brandon is that things don't break. I mean, you don't have to fix them. So that obviously has got to lower the support and maintenance cost. And then retirement costs, Steve, think about this. An average PC with a CRT weighs, you pay by the pound, for the CPU, and the average CPU is what, 30 pounds for the box? And CRTs, I guess, are kind of a fixed price. You pay for those. But thin client is 4 pounds versus 30 pounds. So since you pay by the pound to have them hauled away, and since they will typically last 7 to 10 years, having no moving parts, and the fact that you upgrade them by upgrading the server for most of their lifetime, the retirement costs end up being a lot cheaper for thin clients. It's the last of the total cost of ownership. Anyway, I would say he was very impressed with the numbers, and he even confessed that he had talked to the Gartner group, who previously had done some studies showing that thin clients weren't necessarily cheaper, and he said that no, they've turned around and now they admit that thin client technology tends to win in any total cost of ownership calculation.
Very interesting. So what are you doing in terms of thinking about large-scale management of multiple Linux thin client servers? How are you tackling that one?
Well, we're hopeful that we don't have to worry about that in this pilot rollout that Atlanta Public Schools technology folks will take over the management of the servers. And what they're looking at right now, they're still considering some options, but they're looking at I guess you'd call it an enterprise model, but a large piece of hardware, big server that you can hang a fairly large number of clients off. It's not the Norway model where you put all the servers, in the entire centrally located in the country, but they're thinking, a few handful at most of servers for each school, and having them power a fairly large number of stations.
And have you ended up using any kind of management software in terms of configuring the clients? I know this gets a little bit into the technical area, but for those who have been down this path before, are you doing all of the configuration in the text files for LTSP? Have you come across any tools that have helped you?
Yeah, William and I have. That doesn't necessarily mean that Atlanta Public Schools wouldn't look into tools that they could use.
And for those who may be listening who, the word text file and all that becomes a bit scary, we must say it's remarkably easy. It's very user-friendly. And once you find that you can read English and administer your computers through an English base, for those of us who English is our native language, it's actually remarkably easy. And of course, there are the remote access tools such as Webmin that you can work with the servers. And also, the district is looking at some larger scale enterprise management tools as far as monitoring the servers and their status, etc. But for somebody who might be listening and thinking this is a scary prospect, all this is very, very user friendly.
Even someone who didn't know anything about Linux can do it.
So tell me, go ahead, Miguel.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Miguel here. I'm curious as to how y'all handle the proprietary codecs, like for MP3s. I know that we probably don't want to listen to music and stuff at school, but one of the issues that came up when we did just a quick thin client pilot at one of our high schools was that we wanted students to be able and teachers to be able to listen to sound off the web and listen to MP3s, etc. How does K12LTSP handle that? And there's other formats, movie formats, Windows Media Player.
Right. My understanding, I may be, I hope I'm not incorrect in this, is that the difficulty there is that it's on the distribution side, so it can't be included in the package itself. But if my understanding is correctly, that doesn't preclude the user from installing it. So us being the users, we do have the ability to play these formats at school, but it really becomes a licensing issue for the organizations that distribute the software, and that's where the issue, especially with MP3 and Fedora.
Yeah, another issue, though, that did come up I think you might be interested in is when you try and get sound to work on the older PCs, it's pretty problematic. And one of the benefits that I see of Atlanta Public Schools choosing to not do what we did initially, which is just to put a new server in and turn all the old PCs into thin clients, but rather actually roll out brand new diskless workstations, is it'll all be the same platform. And we found that the Intavo units from Devon IT just worked straight out of the box. Sound worked, USB, everything was just fine. So, utilizing the platform obviously improves that configuration and management problem a lot.
Actually, the little asterisk there that Daniel mentioned with the older computers, we had double of a time under Windows 98 getting sound to work as well. So one shouldn't suspect that we went from bad to worse. We just went from nothing to actually something. We actually got sound to work in the majority of cases with the older computers.
Okay.
I hope that answers your questions. Yes?
Yeah, I guess it does. So what we're saying is really, because that's it's not, you got sound, but you don't necessarily have all the proprietary pieces. So
no, we do. In fact, you know, use K12 at the home, and I don't know if there's much I can't do with it. Something that the end user has to decide for the licensing issues and why some of the distributions have not included those codecs. It's because of the distribution and the proprietary issues that are involved. But that's as far as the like I said, Fedora being able to distribute those codecs, not people's ability to use them. I don't know that there's a restriction for anyone to use those codecs.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say one of the applications that Atlanta Public Schools and our teachers wanted to do was they wanted to be able to view these videos from United Streaming. Are you familiar with that, Steve?
I'm not, but I'm interested in what you have to say here.
Yeah.
It's a repository of educational videos, the stuff that we used to have to watch on those clunky projectors in the classroom. They've digitized now and turned into downloadable media files, and they're all Windows Media Video, WMV format, and we really were able to watch them on the thin clients without any trouble.
That's fantastic, because that's exactly what I was worried about, is that we wouldn't be able to view those kinds of videos and pieces. So K12LTSP then handles all of that.
It handles it. It may not include it, but it handles it.
Right. Yeah, you may have to add it, but there was an issue in running too many copies of the video. Well, you want to talk about that? Did it seem like that was a fairly processor-intensive? I could see the older servers that we had, too.
Like, I can't speak to that.
This is Steve. The main issue we've typically run into with video is just bandwidth, because you are using a lot of bandwidth, and typically on your Linux thin client network, you're just going to hit a bandwidth constraint.
Yep. And that does impose, we found some constraints in the pilot rollout as far as what wiring is available to the classrooms, and really kind of determines the flavor of the rollout that you have in a particular installation. And also one reason that among the projects the PTA undertook this year was to upgrade the wiring at Brandon. It was to overcome some of those issues with bandwidth.
Yeah, we now have Cat 6 wire to every room certified for gigabit. And you know what? You'll still run out of it sooner or later. I mean, you start piping enough voice over IP and video and other, bandwidth-consuming applications like that. But that was one of the things I was hoping to talk about Eric and Jim is, what is their current thinking about with these new dual-core, dual-chip, you got a server with 4 cores in it. You can put 8 gig of RAM in it. What's the new thinking or the current thinking about how many clients you can hang off of a single server? Do you end up being limited by the 70% loading on the Ethernet, which for gigabit would be 700 megabits? Or is it still become a processor-limited thing?
Well, I think my general impression is that you have 3 basic ways of looking at that. One is bandwidth, and of course you have some restrictions there. So if you're trying to overcome bandwidth restrictions, you may not necessarily need or want to do that. The second is the cost of processor power. Certainly when you are using a lower processor, you're getting more processor speed for your dollar. And then, the third is basically your vulnerability in terms of the number of clients that you have hanging off a machine if that machine goes down. So most of what I see in the industry is tending toward sort of really good performing machines, but not overloading them, because if you do your authentication and your data storage off a tangent from that, then those application servers don't really have anything that's critical or unique to them. And if one of them goes down, you can quickly switch your clients to another one. So you build in redundancy, and you're not at the top end of cost trying to milk as many clients out of a server as you can.
Good point. But do you have any feel for what the current maximum number of clients on a what you would say a good server, not necessarily a killer machine?
Well, we found that if you get to the 40 or 50 client range, you run into not only bandwidth but some collision issues on the network. And so we've pretty typically said to people, there's no really good reason to go over 30 or 40 clients per server. You're going to save money. You're going to have better performance. Give yourself multiple application servers. Do your data storage and authentication off the application servers, and you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're not bumping into any limits. You're saving money, and you've built-in redundancy. So from my standpoint, it's a little bit of a red herring to try and figure out how to maximize the number of clients on a server, because it's really not the best way to go.
And one thing, actually, to add to that, we found in our experience was we've been trying to understand the issues. We've talked to, on the mailing list, a lot of people, but especially the educational environment, the educational applications tend to be the biggest bandwidth hogs of all. So when someone says, I run this on a very slow server and I'm very happy with it, they haven't seen what a 5-year-old can do.
Right, especially the younger grades. Everything is graphical and animated. But that's interesting, because another, issue that points you towards, slightly more numerous servers is the issue of the wiring in the school. I've had other PTAs come to me now and ask us about this stuff, and I ask about the status of their wiring, and we were able to redo our wiring, but if we couldn't have done that, we probably would have been stuck with the classroom server model, just because we didn't have reliable, in some cases, 100 megabit links running to the classrooms. So for especially a school that has older wiring, potentially wiring that's at the issue, if it's noisy and can't support it even at maximum spec bandwidth, the classroom server model actually worked very well. It was a piece of cake to set up, hang the existing. It's just time consuming is, I think, the big issue that we found.
Well, and when we should, we're going to run out of time here, but maybe as a follow-up webcast at some point, it'd be fun to really dive into some of these technical issues for the people who have reached that point. But we also were able to find some creative wireless solutions that bridge the networks using the bridging technology to bring relatively decent speed into a classroom, and then having good wiring once you're in that classroom.
Right. Which is a lot easier to do repair on the fly than the wiring going to the classroom.
Absolutely. So we are close to being out of time. Shawn, you've been nice and quiet, and there were a couple of moments when I thought you were maybe going to join in. Was there anything you wanted to contribute before we close off?
I'm pretty quiet. These are the two talkative fellows. I just appreciate being a part of the loop, and we look forward to maybe having something greater or more definitive down the road as we get this pilot going for this school year.
Well, so I think we're going to have a lot of fun next summer, because isn't NEC being held in Atlanta?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Right, and so they've asked me to do another thin client open source lab. In fact, they've asked me to chair the committee that makes the selection process on speakers for open source topics at NEC. So we should...
This means I need how to get our sessions in?
Hey, we're going to have some fun here. So let's make sure that we use this as an opportunity, because we will again probably bring 70 or 80 computers and set up a Linux thin client lab at NEC for the purpose of demonstrating, and I'd really love to work together with you and APS in doing that.
Sure, we'd love to have that happen. I'm thinking possibly maybe one of those mobile labs being one of the displays as well. We'll find a way to get that done.
Hey, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So I want to express my appreciation, Daniel and William, to both of you as well for taking the time, and also just for the work that you've done. I think there's an excitement in your voices. This is clearly something that again, for me, it's make a difference technology, helping people change their lives in positive and productive ways, which is why most people are involved in education, and it's really fun to see you implementing a technology so effectively and just having such a fun time doing it. Did you want to say anything before we close?
I'm sorry, we couldn't have done it without the efforts of people like you and listening to Eric and Jim before us. I mean, we feel like we're standing in the shadow of giants, so we appreciate it. The kids appreciate it.
Well, I can't take credit for any of that. I'm just like you, an observer and an appreciator, and just glad to be a part of a very positive community. Miguel, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really excited about what you're doing in Atlanta. I had knowing that Atlanta is immense, I was just curious as to how many children are impacted by K12LTSP just in Atlanta, and how many teachers use K12LTSP on a daily basis. Because I want to take your story and share it with my school district, which has about 55,000 kids and 3,000 teachers, and let them hear that this is possible in a large urban school district. So
I think KPS is about 50 grand students.
Right, currently about 46,000 students.
46,000.
Yeah, I've been looking at the data every day, so it's 46,000 as of today.
Daniel, it sounds like you got a parting thought.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, we're starting with Brandon. We've got 650 students and 35, 36-ish teachers using it. After they roll out the pilots, you can multiply that by a factor of 5. And I honestly don't think they'll be able to stop that snowball. Once they see how successful it is in the pilots, it's probably going to get throughout the whole system in rapid succession.
Well, we are going to look forward to you reporting back to us on that. So I think in the interest of making sure that these webcasts are limited to 1 hour, that someone can easily download them and learn as much as they can about a topic in the hour, we're going to close at this time. Thanks so much to everybody who joined us. We really appreciate the information and the opportunity to talk about this topic. So until next week, which is Mike Huffman from the state of Indiana, we will sign off and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks to you too, Steve.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.